Yesterday, we were traveling from Florida here to Atlanta last night. And as we were driving to the airport in Fort Lauderdale, we passed a church. And there was a sign outside the church that said, "Watch your thoughts, and you will see your future." And I was thinking about that because I'm a scientist at heart and by academic training. And there's so much scientific evidence showing us the power of our thoughts, of our intentions, whether it's on plants, whether it's on immune system cells, whether it's on random number generators. They have shown over and over and over again that not even psychics and healers, but regular volunteers, regular people, with the power of their thoughts, can change anything. The power of our thoughts, either positive or negative, can actually make plants grow more quickly, slower, to sprout and blossom faster or slower, to give more fruit or less fruit. There are these machines that are called random number generators, where they're designed, they're engineered 50% of the time to give a 0 and 50% of the time to give a 1, like a coin, heads and tails. And they are perfectly engineered so that exactly 50% of the time they give you a 1, and exactly 50% of the time they give a 0. Unless, of course, you have someone sitting there directing their thoughts, and again, not a psychic, not a special healer, but they've done it with regular college students, regular volunteers, directing their thoughts, wanting more 1s or more 0s. And it actually can impact these machines to generate significantly more 0s or more 1s. They've done it with cells, cancerous cells, cells of the immune system. That power of thought can actually change the growth rate in petri dishes in science laboratories. So our thoughts, our intentions, are probably the most powerful tool that we have in our hands to create the life that we want to have, whether it's today or whether it's tomorrow. And yet, despite the fact that we have that much control of our own cells, of everything around us, whether it's plants, whether it's other people, whether it's machines. How many times have we seen that when we're cranky and angry, you lay your hand on the computer and the whole thing freezes? The power of what we're feeling and what we're thinking. Now they're telling us scientifically, actually is changing the world around us. And yet, how much attention do we even pay to what we're thinking? How much attention do we give to our minds and to our thoughts? If suddenly, sitting here, my hands started doing like this or like this or like that, I would stop them. Or if I couldn't stop them, I'd sit on them. And if I couldn't stop them or I couldn't sit on them, I'd realize there was something wrong with me. And I'd go to the doctor and I'd say, my hands are doing this and I can't stop them. People who sleepwalk, who in states of unconsciousness, unawareness, get up and their legs move, we realize it's an illness. Doctors treat this. If suddenly we started saying things that we didn't want to say, or we started singing songs in the middle of a conversation, unaware, unconscious, we'd realize there's something wrong. One of the symptoms of a disease called Tourette syndrome is that people in the middle of a conversation burst out saying completely inappropriate things. So we realize that our hands, our legs, our mouths should be under our control. That we should be able to tell our hands what to do, our legs what to do, our mouths what to do. And yet our minds, our brains, by far the most powerful organ that we're given, we seem to be just sort of content to let it roam in any which way it wanted to go in any direction. Oh, that's just my mind, we say. And yet, if as I sat here, my hands were doing this and I just said, oh, don't worry about that, it's just my hands. Or if I started jumping up and down and I said, oh, that's just my legs, you'd think she's crazy. What does she mean that's just her hands? What does she mean that's just her legs? As though they were somehow separate from me? As though somehow I shouldn't be able to have control over them? And yet that's exactly what we think about our minds. We say, oh, that's just my mind. And yet we actually have the ability to have as much control over our minds and our thoughts as we do over our hands and our legs. It just takes awareness. It just takes bringing ourselves into the present moment. It takes moment to moment, minute to minute awareness. Do I want to be thinking this? And if not, we have as much power to change that as if our feet were taking us in a direction we didn't want to walk. Do I want to be feeling this? And if not, we have as much power to change that as if our hands were doing something we didn't want them to do. But the hands and the feet can sit idly. I can sit here and not move my hands or my feet. The problem is, the mind actually can't be idle. So once we realize, all right, I don't want to be thinking this, I don't want to be feeling this, I don't want my mind to be roaming all over the place in unhealthy and ridiculous directions, then the question becomes, well, so what to think? So what to feel? Where to redirect my mind? Because unlike the hands or the legs, we can't just stop it. So we have to decide where to put it, what to do with it. And that is the importance of the spiritual connection of our spiritual life. It's only through spirituality that we're offered an alternative of what to do with our minds.